Hi, this is Mike Maloney, and I hope you watched episode 7 of Hidden Secrets of Money because they have skipped the helicopter drops and gone directly to the bombers. This is an interview on 60 Minutes with a guy named Neil Kashkari. Isn't that an interesting name? Neil Kashkari. Now, he happens to be the president of the Minneapolis Federal Reserve, so I'll have to ask myself, does he carry cash? Well, why would he? He can create it in unlimited quantities. He's part of the Federal Reserve System. Anyway, check out what he has to say about the Federal Reserve's bottomless checkbook. Remember, there isn't a dime in the Federal Reserve's account. They can create whatever they want. Listen to this.
Your ATM is safe. Your banks are safe. There's enough cash in the financial system, and there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. We will do whatever we need to do to make sure that there's enough cash in the banking system.
Wasn't that interesting? Now we're going to get Alan Greenspan's take on unlimited currency creation.
We don't have a system that's working. We have one that basically moves cash around, and we can guarantee cash benefits. It's far out and at whatever size you like, but we cannot guarantee their purchasing power.
So you can't create unlimited currency without the value of the currency plummeting, and that's basically what Alan Greenspan was saying. So, part of the bombers now coming out to do currency drops. This is from the Australian Treasury, and so they've created stimulus packages that are equal to 9.7% of the Australian economy, the annual GDP. And believe me, this is only the beginning. 9.7, that's 10% of annual GDP. Then we're going to go to the news page. Again, my friend of 50 years really works tirelessly getting you the best news possible. So if you could, bookmark this page, make it your home page when you fire up your computer in the morning. But take a look at some of this news. First of all, gold and silver are up. Gold-silver ratio remains near all-time highs. Higher than it's been in 5,000 years until just the past week or so. I mean, it's up at 118. It hit 124, but it had never been up above 104 before. So we've got worst of global sell-off isn't even here yet, and that was a Wall Street Journal thing. Balance sheet stress worsens bailout dilemma at the Federal Reserve. Dow plummets, Senate fails for a second time to advance a stimulus bill. IMF, virus may cause global recession worse than the global financial crisis. No kidding. Like I said many, many times, the global financial crisis in 2008 was just a speed bump on the way to the main event. And remember that all of this was destined to happen anyway. It just would have played out much slower, and it may have not been quite as bad. The coronavirus added to what was already destined to happen. It had to happen. Economics is a closed loop. You can't have them expanding one sector of the economy forever while the other portions don't grow. That's a bubble when you warp the economy. And the free market will always overwhelm that manipulation eventually, and you end up with a crash, and then they blame it on the free market. If they hadn't manipulated the free market in the first place, it wouldn't happen. Last year, unprecedented demand for silver bullion will push prices higher, definitely. Not yet, though. Swiss gold refiners suspend production due to the virus threat. Now, I just want to know, what do you think is going to happen? We've got the world being swept by this pandemic. In these mines, they send people in close proximity to each other down into these shafts, and they're going to suspend all production of mining on gold and silver. They're going to suspend all of the refining. The mints are going to close temporarily while the virus is out. So, and then most of silver's supply comes as a byproduct of base metals. And there's no demand anymore for copper or lead or zinc, all of the metals that they dig up, and that's where most of the silver comes from. It's like it's a pollutant in copper. And so they refine it and then they sell it because they've got it. But basically, that isn't what their business is wrapped around. So all of that production goes away, plus all of the primary gold and silver producers are going to be closed. There's going to be nobody to refine it. There's going to be nobody to mint it into coins just when everybody wants it. What do you think is going to happen to the price? So moving on. Chart of the day. And this is a good one. This is the S&P ASX 200, which is it's an index that Standard & Poor's created of the Australian stock market. And you take a look at this graph, and it looks like it's rising. In the past month, this thing has just absolutely fallen off of a cliff. It's much worse than the U.S. stock markets. So this is from Nuggets News. Thousands of people are lining up for Centrelink this morning across Australia. Multiple reports of queues wrapping around every corner of the block. Inability to apply social distancing due to lack of space. Security letting one in, one out. Centrelink website reportedly crashing all morning. Now, Centrelink is where everybody gets their unemployment checks from and social security checks, and it does a whole range of government benefits. It's all paid out of Centrelink, and so nobody can get their unemployment, their social security, and all of the other government-supported programs. And then moving on, I want to welcome the 4,471 new subscribers over the weekend. Thank you very much. And just remember, when you subscribe, hit that notification bell. Behind the scenes, several years back when we were making Hidden Secrets of Money, Episode 4, we went to Ron Paul's office in Texas. And he lives, I can't remember the name of the town, but he lives in this tiny little town with just a couple of traffic lights, and he has this very unassuming office, but it says freedom up above the top. And here's this congressman that fought for us for, I believe it's more than 22 years, almost 23 years. He was in Congress, and he fought for the Constitution of the United States, for freedom and liberty, and never gave up. And boy, I will tell you, he is like the nicest, most genuine person I've ever seen. And when it comes to a politician, when you ask him a question, you get straight talk. He never stops to think of what he's going to say or gives you some baloney answer where, you watch people campaigning in debates, and they'd say, well, first I'd like to thank the people of the great state of Florida. And the reason they're saying that is they're trying to come up with, how am I going to answer this question without offending these people and without losing this audience over here? And so he doesn't do that. Bam, he comes up with the answer. He was absolutely a wonderful man. Viewer feedback. The System is Just Broke, Part 1, the Financial Armageddon with Chris, where I interviewed, Part 1 was Chris Martenson interviewing me. Part 2 was me interviewing Chris Martenson. And The Irishman, and by the way, I'm half Irish. Full name is Michael O'Brien Maloney. The Irishman says, I like the way you guys teamed up on this video series. Great idea. And I hope to see more of this in the future. Thank you very much, Irishman. Stanislav Lablakov. What about the SLV ETF? That's the silver exchange-traded fund, if anybody doesn't know. How safe is it? What are the best silver mining stocks? Okay, first, there's a whole section in my book on SLV and GLD. So go to my website, goldsilver.com, download the book, and it's in there. It's under, beware the pitfalls, all the things that you've got to watch out for, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of scams out there. But SLV, GLD, the ETFs, that is a derivative of gold and silver. It's not real gold and silver unless you can afford to take delivery of a 400-ounce bar of gold or a 1,000-ounce bar of silver. And, there's multiple owners because you can short that ETF, which means that two people own the same ounce of silver. So I don't trust them, and we can provide storage of real physical silver and make it actually more liquid than that at a lower price. When you look at the management fees and stuff and the way SLV and GLD diverge from real physical gold and silver, you're better off with just real gold and silver in a storage account. But that's only my opinion. You've got to do your own research and come up with your own conclusions. What is the best silver mining stock? None of them right now. In a crisis, gold will outperform these things, but stocks are stocks first and gold and silver second. And when there's margin call and when things are crashing, they crash as well. And if you do a study on this, going back to 1970, take the Barron's Gold Mining Index, divide it by the price of gold, and you will see that over the period of time from 1970 to today, gold has outperformed the stocks by many, 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 many times. And so all you're doing is introducing risk and danger when you start buying a bunch of mining stocks. However, after gold and silver peaked and then started to fall in 1980, there was a dead cat bounce later on that year. On that dead cat bounce, mining stocks went ballistic. This will probably happen again. So there will come a day for mining stocks. But to me right now, I've only got one position, and it was a private placement in an Explorer. I don't have any other mining stocks at the moment, gold or silver. So, Kim Boyce, hi Mike. In advance, thank you. When does the manipulation of the price of gold and silver stop? Well, guess what? It already stopped. It hasn't, not completely. They do manipulate all of the futures contracts. I can make as many IOUs for gold and silver and just pass them out to anyone I want, and that's what determines the spot price that you're seeing when you look at charts, is IOUs for gold and silver. It's not gold and silver, and right now physical gold and silver has diverged from the IOU price of gold and silver big time, and it's only going to get worse as they start to close all of the mines, refineries, and mints just when everybody wants them, wants gold and silver. I think anybody that thinks that gold is not going to $10,000 an ounce is like a lunatic. They're the ones that are crazy, not me. And then silver at 100 at about 120th the value of gold right now, it's going to catch up. When they peaked in 1980, it was 14 ounces of silver to equal an ounce of gold, not 120. So history repeats. It just has a little twist each time. It's your job to figure, well, it's my job too, but it's your job to figure out what those twists are and then try to apply that to history and see what might happen this time. That's what I like doing. Space Monkey, can you have inflation and deflation at the same time, like food inflationary and stocks, housing deflationary? Do you think that is a possibility now? Absolutely. That's what happened in 2008. We had healthcare going ballistic and several other things becoming very, very expensive. Consumer goods sort of stayed static, but real estate and stocks fell because those were bubbles that were deflating. They were gigantic bubbles caused by the Federal Reserve and the world's central banks with all the currency creation. When they create currency, it goes specific places. And so those places go into bubbles. Scott Jane, I hope I said that right. I'm not sure, Scott. I love Chris's last statement on his grandkids and legacy. My kids have thought I was a lug nut for building a stack and prepping. No more. Smiley face. The quote of the day, but first, go and get a copy of my book because the answers to all of these questions are in there and it's free. And so you can go to goldsilver.com/free book. Also, if you take a look at goldsilver.com/book, you'll see, I think, 12 different versions of my book there. It was produced in 16 languages, available worldwide. So get a copy. And here's the quote of the day. Men, it has been well said, think in herds. It will be seen that they go mad in herds, while they only recover their senses slowly and one by one. That's Charles Mackay, and it's from his book, Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. And that's one of the books that I read to be able to write my book. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.